Right, just before you watch this review, there are potential spoilers ahead. Please don't watch the review until after you've seen Erigah, the episode. Right then, hello there, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. My name is Paul, I'm also called Knickknack, alongside a lot of other things, and I'm the man behind Knickknack's Old Peculiar, the blog, Knickknack's Daily Teaser, the incredibly fun teaser quizzes that you must go and watch now, and occasionally about movie reviews. I've got to see one at some point, and occasionally about TV reviews. This is one of those said reviews. Today is Friday the 10th of May. Yesterday, of course, was Thursday the 9th. And yesterday was when I watched episode 7 of Star Trek Discovery's last series called Erigah. 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 This is what I thought. Episode 7, Erigah, opens with a traditional summary of earlier episodes and then shifts to show us the Discovery rendezvousing with the USS Lockerer, the Federation ship that is currently holding Mol and Lack, Eve Holo and Elias Tefexis. Captain Burnham, Sonequa Martin Green, finds several things. First, an old friend and former Discovery crewmate, Commander Nahn, Rachel Asheril, is able to help. 2, the Commander Nahn has managed to recover Dr. Villock's diary from Mol. The diary is important as it gives a whole load of details about the progenitor's technology and where to find the next clues. 3, the commander and Book, the captain's ex-lover, played by David Ajala, aren't exactly friends. Book had, after all, pointed some seriously heavy weaponry at Nahn the last time they'd met. With feathers calmed, it is time for the captain to meet both Lack and Mol and prepare for potential trouble. As Dr. Culber and Nan warn her, this meeting is going to involve medicine. Now, what did I think of Erigah? What did I think of this episode? Just as a minor term, the title of the episode is not a name of some weird alien species, it's the name of the blood bounty that the Breen have put specifically on Lack and Mol. It's a bounty. They're in danger of getting extremely killed by the Breen. That out of the way, what did I think of the actual episode? It has to be said, sometimes I take to an episode, however well made it is, sometimes I don't. Last week's episode, Whistle Speak, as good as it was, wasn't necessarily one I was completely taken with. And looking back at it now, I can see that it is still the ending that I found a little problematic for my tastes. I'll be blunt, I found it a little white saviour-ish, which isn't necessarily something I would have expected from Star Trek. But that's possibly something for another time. Erigah, by contrast, is something I found a lot less problematic, and it's something that gave us a lot of world building, a lot of lore. For starters, we have an episode that concentrates not on locating a clue, as Whistle Speak was, but on a dangerous situation and a dangerous negotiation. Federation HQ itself, still a beautiful bit of design, that thing, is under threat from a dreadnought-sized Breen warship. A bloody huge threat that Numbert President Tarina of Navarre, played by Tara Roslin, can successfully negotiate, but it's one that still leaves even her negotiating skills with an hour to hand over Lack and Mol. We get a very tense Mexican standoff, in other words, something that's more to my taste than a Whistle Speak style treasure hunt. We learn things as well, not least that the very Vulcan Tarina has an incredibly dry sense of humour under stress. Her line about tribble infestations certainly got me smiling, I know that. We also learn that the Breen were, at one point in recent Federation history, the occupiers of Calorans, Rayna's homeworld, and that Rayna, Callum Keith Rennie, hates the Breen because of it. He hates them with a purple passion, but he also knows a lot about the people who conquered his home, something that eventually proves useful for Burnham in the negotiations. More importantly, we learn what's motivating the Breen's seeming aggression towards other governments or other polities. It seems that since the Breen's last emperor has died, there is a civil war happening. Different Breen nobles, or primarchs they call them, are struggling to secure the throne for themselves, including Lack's uncle, Primarch Run. Run, it seems, has something of an advantage. He's directly related to the scion, the heir to the last emperor, his nephew, Lack. An heir who, by the end of the episode, is as dead as a doornail. That's the spoiler there. He's an heir that leaves his widow, that's another spoiler, Molly, or Moll, desperate enough to position herself to make a deal with the devil himself. Should the Breen help her find the progenitor technology that everyone's after, there is a good chance that Lack can be brought back to life. Erigah's one hell of a twisty little thriller, and you can see stuff coming in the wind. With all of that lot said, what did I make of Erigah? With all of that said, I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. There are times in earlier episodes where Star Trek Discovery boils down to being a somewhat bloodless talking shop. There's a lot of talking heads standing around looking pretty and talking. That's all they do. That's all they're there for. Erigah, by contrast, has given us a tense political drama that is very well worth watching, and a beautifully executed Mexican standoff. Possibly executed and Mexican are not necessarily two words to put together, but there you go. It's a wonderfully done Mexican standoff. The episode sets up next week's very well indeed. We've got a point of tension because we need to know what Moll is going to do about her now dead husband. That next episode is something I am definitely going to be watching next week. I don't know if we'll see a resolution to this aspect of the story next week or in a couple of weeks' time, but I'll be watching the next episode of Star Trek Discovery, Labyrinth, on Thursday the 16th of May, and posting my written video reviews of it on Friday the 17th when I found out what's going on. In between now and then, I will be watching the first two episodes of Doctor Who's new series, Space Babies and The Devil's Called, over the weekend, and I will have my written reviews and video reviews of those up by Tuesday the 14th of May at the very latest. Hopefully, I will see you either next week or over the weekend. Take care, have fun, live long and prosper, and to quote Patrick McGowan, be seeing you. Right, just when you thought you'd had enough of me, the postscript arrives. Just as a point of confession, this series and this episode is not the first time I've heard the word Primarch, Primarch, Primarch. Although, with that said, you're not going to find it in the Oxford English Dictionary or Webster's. I know, I've just looked at the online versions. But that doesn't stop me knowing that the word Primarch refers to a senior leader. It's a word-up pseudo-Latin word for a senior leader. In the context of Star Trek Discovery, and I've only seen it in this series, it refers to a senior Breen noble. But I've also seen it used in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. In Games Workshop's best-known Grimdark product, it's basically their word for the founding fathers and leaders of the various Space Marines chapters. While I've not played the game, I do know the background to it. I generally think well of it, and the artwork is usually bloody fantastic. It's worth checking it out. It's suitably steampunk and grim and dark and heavy, and there's a hell of a lot of orcs floating around in giant robots. Go have a look at it.